Hey Amber, how you doing? All right, I've got your work up here and I'm looking at your post. Just want to go through this really quick. Fix the title part to left-hander. That, you know what, that's okay. It's still work on it so that you get that technique down, so you understand exactly how to set it up and use it in the future, should that possibility arise again. But yeah, I wouldn't just abandon it. I would definitely figure it out, and maybe you can even slip this into your final submission for Sunday if you can work that out. Um, Same for font for the quote and the look at the handwriting. I noticed that. That's good, smart design right there. I'll get into that more in a second. Um, but user stands out against the rest of the layout. Clean, simple font type for the majority of the text. I didn't want it to be too busy or difficult to read. Took out some images. Now there's only two. I think it's good. Yeah, it's good. This is a good distribution of images, good balance. So yeah, three was overkill, and I think this graphic up here is interesting enough to act as that third image. So I think any more than that, it's really overkill. Um, so I think that was a good decision. Not to bring that on, um, that was smart too. The two columns of text that was a good. I think that is the logical decision in this assignment because the thin little text columns are just too cumbersome. They're really difficult to read. Your job as a designer in this particular case is um, to get the viewer to read the magazine article. So there's a lot of things that we do, and you've done a lot of really wonderful things here in order to make the general look of the layout to be more inviting and more interesting. And that's the first thing that the viewer looks at when they perceive how easy or difficult it is going to be for them to read the article. And based on the density of text, the lack of interesting elements to add variety to the page, that all of that stuff will force the viewer to look away from the page. So adding things like this deck head and this pull quote, drop caps, these are all things that are really great techniques to allow the viewer to look at the article before they even start reading it and say to themselves, this looks interesting, this looks inviting, I think I'm going to dive in and read it. Okay, let's go ahead and jump. Let me think that's all I have here. Images contained for video mapping. Okay, yeah, let's go ahead and jump right. I've got the PDF up right here. I think it's a great job so far. I really do. I think that this has come along quite nicely. I have to say. A couple of things we're going to talk about here, and let me just bring this down a little bit. Okay, that's much better. Okay, good start. Now, first thing I see is a little bit of discord in color, and I think there's something we can do here to really clean this up. Now, if you take a look at the right-hand side of the page and look at the left-hand side of the page, we can see the color palettes are considerably different. There are a little bit of the pinks in the left-hand side of the page, but is there a way that we can tie the color in the right-hand side of the spread into the left-hand side of the spread, or vice versa, right? So if we look at the infographics, we see that they both share a common color in this green. That's our clue right there. They both also share this color, purple. So those are our clues and how we can decide and decipher how to add color to the left-hand side of the page. Now, my recommendation here is to start with the green, see if the green works. If not, try the purple. What you want to do is I would just take this left-hander type and set it in this color green right here. Then take this text right here and the same thing, set it in the same color, but remove that box from the background. We don't need that. Now, speaking of this, I don't know if this is a pull quote or a call out. A pull quote is actually a quote from the text that was used somewhere in this text. A call out is just a synopsis of a basic summary of what's happening in the article. If this is a pull quote, if this is an actual quote, be sure you get the quote marks in there and be sure that you use um, smart quotes instead of what are called dumb quotes. And you can just Google that real quick. What are smart quotes? Sorry about that. Anyways, yeah, so we'll get that color in there. Now, as I was talking about pull quotes or call outs, so if this is an actual quote, we'll be sure to get those quotes in there. Make sure you use smart quotes. If you can Google, look up smart quotes and how to set smart quotes in InDesign, and you'll get it's really easy. It's just a matter of using the curly quotes instead of using the straight quotes. it'll all be covered in the resource you find. And again, just Google how to set smart quotes in InDesign. Um, Also, regardless, this should have a period in it. If it doesn't have this, this is the beginning of a quote, and it's not the rest of this. It's not the complete sentence. Add an ellipsis here before the end quote. If this is just the whole thought, be sure to add a period. Okay, so let's jump in. This is a good setup. This is a nice deckhead right here. This is good stuff. One thing I'm seeing here, and this you're kind of stuck here. I think this is a smart to span both columns of type with the deckhead. But what's happening here is you're getting these unusual spaces. Now it's going to be difficult. It's going to be difficult to edit this out and maintain the justified type settings that you have. Now what's happening here is there's not quite enough. You're getting this really weird spacing here. As you can see, look how tightly these letters are packed together in line 2. But in line 1, we see these big spaces between letters, and that is because in justified type, the software has to put spaces somewhere, right? So it tries to evenly distribute the leftover space that would be left at the end of the sentence if this were left aligned right rag. Unfortunately, there's not much you can do here. Because this is the quote. I mean, this is the deckhead. This is it. That's all the text you have here, right? So my recommendation here would be just left align this instead of justified. Now I'm going to do something here. I want to use my straight edge because I want to show you something. But let me just take this. We'll bring this over here and take a look at this. We're not quite. This isn't quite in alignment, this deckhead. What I would like you to do is and this might even help with these unusual spaces. So you may not have to. What I would like you to do is just make this much more narrow. Right now, you're actually extended beyond the left margin of the type and the right margin of the type on both sides. You can bring this deckhead in and bring it into about here and about here. You don't even have to hit the margins. It can be more narrow than the margins. That might take care of those extra spaces. Try it, see how it looks. If it still doesn't look good, then just go ahead and left align, right rag, and just make sure that you bring this in a little bit. See how it looks. You can, if you do end up left align, right rag, you can bring it right to the margin or pull it in, whatever looks better to you. Great drop cap, good type setting. You're getting some unusual. We'll get that out of there. You're getting some unusual spaces. Here's one right here. And of course, those are all caused by the justified type settings. And there's not much you can do about that. But overall, I think your type is set beautifully here. Good drop caps. Now, good byline. This is really nice introduction. That's a beautiful drop cap. This is good stuff right here. We get to right here. And then this situation here in conjunction with this situation here is a little unusual. The reason I say that is because I think this type is too big. I think your subhead type is a little too big. Your subhead type is bigger than the type in your deckhead. I would say to bring it down to that size, maybe even a little smaller. Because right now you're getting a little competition here between the subhead and the drop cap. So I would reduce the size of the subhead a little bit and then give a little space between the subhead and where the paragraph below it starts. You're right on top of it there. It looks really cramped, especially in conjunction with the drop cap. So let's get a little space between the subhead and where the paragraph starts. Looks like your baseline alignment is excellent. Good job there. No orphans or widows. Excellent job there. Now, one thing I would recommend on the right-hand side of the page is that it's well, let me do this first. First of all, let's talk about alignment. Let's get this down. Reduce the size of this graphic. Right now, you're actually even larger than the margin, so you have room to reduce. So what I would like you to do is just reduce this graphic so that the top of it aligns with the top of the type right there. That's going to clean up that top margin, and it's going to look beautiful. At that point, we say, okay, the left-hand side of the page. Right now, there's something missing. I think it's something that it could come into play. And the fact that these don't have captions, these two wonderful infographics, get some captions in there. Quite often, actually, statistics show that if an infographic, a graphic, or an image has a caption it's more likely to be looked at in the article. If it doesn't, if an infographic doesn't have a caption, it's more likely the viewer is just going to skip right through that infographic. So what I would do is I would assemble captions. This one you can put it below right here, and this one you can put it above right here. Or your option is to put it above right here to the right for this caption here, and below to the left for this caption here. Now, you'll set the captions in a way that will make it obvious that they're a caption and not part of the body copy. And I think the best way to do that is you don't want to run the entire width of the, for example, if you put it below, you can run half the width or 3/4 of the width, start it there, and set it in italic. And the same thing if you place it up here, just, make sure you set it in italic. And then, the width of the caption is really up to you. If you put it above, you try running the full span. If it doesn't work, you can try, running partial span. Just experiment to see what works best and what looks best, and then take it from there. Captions, really interesting, good typography. I think your typographic color is beautiful. Your leading and kerning is gorgeous. Nice job there. Good typographic color. I mean, it's very, very inviting. You get a wonderful space between paragraphs. That's excellent. Now, you are doing advanced stuff here, and I just want to, whoops, sorry about that. I just want to come back here. I just want to run something by here. Now, this is definitely not required, but since you are at an advanced stage, it looks like I'd like you to think about hanging punctuation. And in justified type, on any type, if you have a punctuation that starts a sentence or a paragraph specifically that is in the left margin, you want to hang that punctuation, which means the punctuation mark itself would hang off the margin off the left margin into the space right here. Okay, and then anything on the right, dashes, comma, here's a comma and a quotation. That looks to, and that would be right. And right, so you would hang those on the right side. So basically what hanging punctuation does is it forces the punctuation into the margin to maintain the clean, crisp edge of the justified type. So you can just do a quick Google search on hanging punctuation using InDesign, and that'll describe that. Again, that's not required. It's something, though, I think that we have a lot of instances that will where that will be applicable. So think about that. And other than that, this is just wonderful work. Don't forget your page numbers, okay? And then also, you can also remember, since we just stop right here, and there's going to be a caption here somewhere, don't forget you can also, instead of just stopping the text, just say, stop a couple lines short, and it's down here in italic, in italic type, just go ahead and say, continued on page, whatever. And that'll do it. Okay, a little bit tight on the lower margins, the bottom margins of the page, a little bit tight. And the reason I say that is because there's no room to fit page numbers in here. So you definitely want to think about that. I think your margins on your left and right hand side could be a little, you don't have to fix those because that will entail recomposing the work. But typically in a magazine, you want to have a pretty good sized right margin on the right hand page and left margin on the left hand page. Those are called the outer margins. And enough so that the viewer can hold the magazine and kind of put their thumbs, so they're not obstructing any of the type when their thumbs are placed on the sides of the magazine. Okay, other than that, hey, this is a great job. I'm so pleased. You're looking fantastic. If you have any questions at all, or if you need any clarification whatsoever, please let me know. I'll be glad to provide in that regard. All right, great start. Thank you very much.